Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to speak in English. The Rabbi will do the Hebrew.
Oh, English. Hebrew, huh? Yeah.
Everybody knows on Shabbat there's a isur to do cooking. You're not allowed to do bishul. Chas v'shalom. One of the lamitet melachot is to cook, to take a food item and put it onto a fire, or to start a fire and cook the food is asur, with the oraita. However, the Chachamim came along and made a lot of gezerot surrounding cooking to protect someone not to cook. And two gezerot they made, I just want to speak out shortly, that maybe it's known to everybody, but just to get a little more into detail about it, what we have to do. There's something called shehiyah and chazara. Shehiyah means to leave it on a fire. Chazara means to return it to a fire. What does that mean? I'll explain right now. That means, really in the Torah law, if on Friday afternoon I put up a pot of soup onto the fire, turn on the fire, and then I go to shul, did I do anything wrong for Hilchot Shabbat of Bishul? Absolutely not. You did everything perfect. You did not cook on Shabbat. It's not. You didn't cook on Shabbat.
Put the soup on raw?
Raw.
Okay.
Right. In the Oraita, in the Torah law, you are good. However, the Chachamim came along before Shabbat. Yeah. Chachamim came along and they were worried. This is more of a worry that happened back in the day, but we still keep that law, that gezerah. Since back in the day they used to cook with, let's say, wood or charcoal and all that, and you have to, you ever make a wood fire, you have to stoke it every once in a while, and their ovens were designed that way that you have to stoke it once in a while. So the rabbis were worried, if you're going to put something raw right up before Shabbat, you know what's going to happen? It's going to come Shabbat, you're going to come, and it's not fully cooked yet, you're going to stoke the coals, you're going to stoke the wood so the fire heats up and it'll cook faster. And that will be asur. That will be helping the cooking. That will be bishul. So therefore the rabbis made a decree, you are not allowed to put a raw pot of food before Shabbat onto the fire and leave it on the fire before Shabbat. That's called shehiyah. You're not allowed to leave a pot on the fire before Shabbat. Wow, that sounds like it's knocking us all out. We can't put any food on the fire. But no, they made a way how to do it. The way to do it is, the Gemara's term is, you have to do either garuf or katum. That means either you shovel out the coals, maybe you're leaving some in, but you're shoveling it out, so you're making a recognition that I'm not going to touch the coals. I'm actually making it worse for the food. Either shovel it out, or you could spread a sand on top of the coals, also a form of diminishing the fire. So again, you're showing, even though the fire is still there, you're showing I will not stoke that coal. I'm actually diminishing it. Then you'll be allowed to leave it on the fire. So we all got one condition, okay? You're allowed to leave food on the fire so long that you diminish the fire somewhat. In modern day, what do we call that? We'll put a blech. They'll put a plata, a metal thing on top of the fire, or they'll block something. So that is a recognition that I'm not going to touch the fire. Then it will be permissible to do that. That's one. There's another way that you'll be allowed to leave it onto the fire, and that is if it's cooked somewhat already. Let's say it's half cooked or even a third cooked, then you're allowed to leave it on an open flame. Because again, it's already somewhat cooked. I'm not going to stoke it. I'm okay. The Chachamim weren't as worried anymore. Right. I'm not gonna, it's already somewhat cooked. I'm not worried anymore about that. That's another way. A third option would be, is if you put a real raw meat right before Shabbat, and a piece of raw meat takes a long time to cook, we are not worried that you're going to stoke the coals. Because it's not going to be a quick process, it's going to be a long process, it has to last through the whole night. We're not worried that you're going to be messing around with it. Those are three options that are noged today, these day and age. Either A, you block it, which is the best thing that everybody should do, because you'll see for the next thing why you need to block it. put a blech and all that, or it's somewhat cooked, half cooked or third cooked, or if you put it right before Shabbat, a raw piece of meat, you throw it in, then you're also good to go. That was shehiyah that one must do. Now here's another thing, chazara. Chazara means to return it. Every person on Shabbat, they have a pot of hameen on the stove, right? And you want a sneak preview Friday night. You want to take it off and eat it and put it back. Are you allowed to put it back onto the fire? So here again, technically, there's nothing wrong. I'm not cooking; it's cooked already. Putting it back on, it's not. I'm not reheating it. It's the same thing. But the rabbis made a decree: if you're going to put it back on, it looks like you're cooking. Nira kemevashel, looks like you're putting it back on. It looks like you're cooking. So you know what they said to do? Again, the same thing. If you cover it, or in those days you put sand on the fire, or you remove a lot of the coals before Shabbat, then you will be allowed to return it so long that it's still somewhat hot. Doesn't have to be bubbling, even though Maran says bubbling, but as long as it's hot, you're allowed to put it back on. What? On the blech, but it has to be a blech. There must be a blech there. If it's not a blech there, you're not allowed to put it back on. So again, let's just repeat that last one. You are allowed to put it back onto the fire so long that there's somewhat of a recognition that I'm not cooking now. I'm putting there's something covering the fire. I remove the coals. The flame, the things are covered. So you're allowed to put it back on so long that it's still hot. Here's conditions again on this heter that the Chachamim gave, and that is the food in this situation must be fully cooked. Can't be half cooked. Because half cooked, now I'm putting it back on, now I'm going to be cooking it more. It can't be half cooked, it has to be fully cooked. That's one condition. Another condition is you're not allowed to put it down on the ground. If you put it down on the ground, you kind of like showing that you stopped the original cooking, and then when I put it back on, now it looks like I'm cooking again. And you're not allowed to do that. You can't make a hefsek like. So you can't put it on the ground. So what do? We'll put it down on a towel. You put it down on this paper, you're fine. Put it down on a towel. Or even the grates of the oven. Put it down on that, it's good. But if you put it on a counter, since it's connected to the ground, it might be a problem. Maybe b'diavad you could put it back. Ask the rabbi if he allows that. But you should not be doing that lechatila. You should be putting it on something that's not attached to the ground. Another thing is you should have an intention to put it back. When you take it off, don't take it off without any intention to put it back.
Sure.
You should have intention to put it back. The Ashkenazim are even more mahmid. They wouldn't fully let go of it. They'll still hold it in their hand. We are not mahmid on that. The Maran is not mahmid on that. But the Ashkenazim, whoever's Ashkenaz here, should be careful to hold it and not release it from their hand. That's bishul. That's the laws of Shabbat. Now, just to end off with a little agada. I saw this recently. Rabbi Nassan Wachvogel was the mashgiach of Lakewood Yeshiva. Passed away, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, who knows. But he was obviously a great man, and he saw the Chafetz Chaim, I think, once. He learned. He was an American person, but he went to Europe to learn. It was like a handful of Gedolim that did that. Him and Rabbi Gifter, Rabbi Bigda Miller, they all went from America to Europe. And then when the war started, they came running back. Actually, some of them had a hard time coming back. They had to go from different countries and come back. But anyway, when Rav Nassan was in Europe, maybe the Chafetz Chaim, everybody knows the Chafetz Chaim. Chafetz Chaim came to a town that was closer to where his yeshiva was, and he wanted to go see him. Everybody heard of the Chafetz Chaim, and he wanted to go see the Chafetz Chaim. And he would imagine, if he's going to go see the Chafetz Chaim, he was going to speak somewhere. He would be talking about some holy stuff, some big stuff. And he says he went and he listened to a shiur or a shmuz from the Chafetz Chaim that he gave for an hour. And he said, I would have thought that the Chafetz Chaim was going to give a shmuz on very lofty stuff. But he gave one message across. And the message is a very nice message. His message that he was giving across was, most people the way they live their life in Ruchaniyut is just by route. By route, you come to shul, you put on your tefillin, you pray, you leave, you come back from mincha. It's all by rote. But a person can't be like that. A person has to internalize on his own what he's doing. You can't just say, oh, Ashrei, everything is by rote what we do. It has to be yours. You have to somewhat make an acquisition of your own, or else you'll lose it. You have nothing of yourself. And he spoke about that concept for an hour. Something so simple, but he spoke about it for an hour. We have to be careful to do that. We're all doing, let's say, somewhat of Avodat Hashem. We come to shul, but if we don't make it our own, we don't internalize it. Think about the words of what you're saying. Really think about it. Not just I'm here, I'm doing it. To do it properly is the real Avodat Hashem that we all should strive to be. Rabbi, thank you for inviting me, and we are very happy to be here.
Hazak u'baruch, beautiful summary of the Shin Yud Chet, L'chot Bishul, beautiful summary. He learned that for 1 year, not for, and make him
I didn't.
couple months, yeah. I learned L'chot Shabbat 1 year in Israel, 4 years ago. Hazak u'baruch, our friend Rabbi Yekutiel. Ashrecha v'tov lach.